Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about something that I know a lot of you are interested in, anti-aging research. But specifically, we're going to be looking at this new class of drugs called senolytics. Yeah, they target these things called zombie cells in our bodies, and it's pretty fascinating stuff. You can find all the details in this article we're looking at from Nature Medicine. It's called Zombie Cell Killers: New Hope for Aging Bones, and it came out in July of 2024. So imagine drugs that can actually target and eliminate those cells that are basically making us age. That's what we're diving into today.
Senolytics, yeah, they're really showing a ton of promise, especially when it comes to age-related bone deterioration. That's a big one.
Yeah, so let's start with the basics here. Can you explain what exactly these zombie cells are? I mean, it sounds like something out of, a horror movie or something.
Right. Well, the actual term is senescent cells. And I guess in a way, they are kind of like zombies. These are cells in our bodies that have been damaged. Could be from stress, toxins, just kind of the wear and tear of life as we get older. And they can't divide anymore. They can't function like healthy cells should. But they also don't die off. They just kind of linger in this state of dormancy.
Okay, so they're not exactly thriving, but they're not dead either. And that's where the trouble starts, right? The article mentioned they can cause some serious problems.
Yeah, that's right. Even though they're dormant, they're not exactly quiet. They still secrete these harmful substances that can cause inflammation. And that inflammation can damage the tissues around them. And this whole process, it contributes to aging and makes us more susceptible to all kinds of age-related diseases.
So that's where these senolytic drugs come in. Saying they're like a specialized cleanup crew for our bodies. They can actually target and get rid of these zombie cells, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. Now, there's this Mayo Clinic study that I found really interesting. They did a phase 2 trial, and they looked at the effects of this specific combination of senolytic drugs, dasatinib and quercetin, or D plus Q, and they tested it on a group of postmenopausal women.
Oh, yeah. That study was a big deal. They were really focused on bone health, which is a major concern as we age. And it was the first study to look at what they call intermittent senolytic therapy. So that means the participants took the D plus Q in cycles, not continuously. And they were looking specifically at markers of bone formation and bone resorption.
The bone resorption, that's basically the breakdown of bone tissue, right?
Exactly. It's a natural process. Our bones are constantly remodeling themselves.
So did the results show that D plus Q was effective in kind of combating bone aging?
Well, the findings were pretty interesting. They found that D plus Q did have a positive effect on bone formation, but it didn't really have a significant impact on reducing bone resorption in all of the participants.
Wait, so not everyone benefited equally? That's kind of unexpected, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think caused that variation in the results?
Well, this is where things get really fascinating. The study found that D plus Q was most effective in women who started out with a higher concentration of those senescent cells.
So it's like a targeted weapon against zombie cells. If you don't have that many to begin with, the drug isn't going to have as much of an effect.
Exactly.
Well, it seems like we're talking about personalized medicine here, right?
You got it. This study really highlights how important personalized approaches are going to be for anti-aging treatments. We need to be able to identify those individuals who are most likely to actually benefit from senolytic therapies. And this brings up another important point, which is the potential dangers of self-medicating with senolytic products, especially some of those commercially available ones like quercetin supplements.
Oh, that's interesting. Why is that?
Well, just because a natural compound like quercetin might show some senolytic properties in a lab setting, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe or effective to just take it on your own without proper testing and guidance from a healthcare professional. Taking the wrong dosage or combining quercetin with other medications could have some unintended consequences.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like trying to fix your car engine by watching a YouTube video.
Yeah.
You might think you know what you're doing, but without the right tools and expertise, you could end up doing more harm than good.
Exactly. And in this case, the potential harm could be pretty serious, especially when you're dealing with potent substances that could have all sorts of unforeseen effects.
Right. So we need to be cautious about rushing into self-treatment. Personalized medicine is really key when it comes to senolytics. But what's also remarkable about this research is that it's not just about slowing down aging. The potential of senolytics goes way beyond wrinkles and age spots. Scientists are looking at how they could be used to treat a whole range of diseases.
Absolutely. The implications are much broader than just aesthetics. Researchers are looking at how senolytics could potentially combat diseases like idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. That's a serious lung condition. And dementia, diabetes, heart disease, the list goes on and on.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. So it's not just about living longer, it's about living healthier. potentially avoiding or even reversing some of the most debilitating diseases that we face. It's fascinating how these senolytic drugs are paving the way for a whole new era of medicine, allowing us to target the underlying mechanisms of aging and disease with such precision.
It really is exciting stuff, but like you said, there's still a lot to unpack. Maybe we can dive into some of those other applications of Senolytics.
Absolutely, let's do that. But first, I'm curious about how scientists actually measure the concentration of these senescent cells in the body. I mean, they're not exactly easy to spot under a microscope, are they?
That's a great question. It's definitely a challenge, and it's an area of ongoing research. There are a few different methods being explored. One approach is to look for specific biomarkers. These are molecules that are released by senescent cells. It's kind of like tracking down criminals by looking for their fingerprints.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So these biomarkers can be detected in blood samples or other bodily fluids.
Exactly. They give researchers an idea of the overall burden of senescent cells in the body. Another method, although it's more invasive, involves taking biopsies of specific tissues and then analyzing those tissues for the presence of senescent cells.
That sounds like it would provide more detailed information about where those zombie cells are hanging out, different organs and tissues.
You're exactly right. It's not just about knowing how many you have, it's also about knowing where they are in the body. This is why personalized medicine is so crucial when it comes to senolytic therapies. We need to be able to identify who would benefit from these treatments and figure out the optimal dosage and the best way to deliver the drugs to target the specific tissues affected by the disease.
So we're talking about a whole new level of precision in medicine, tailoring treatments not just to an individual's genetic makeup, but also to their own unique pattern of cellular aging. That's pretty amazing. But I can't help but wonder if there are any potential downsides. Are there risks associated with eliminating senescent cells? After all, they must have some kind of role to play in the body, right?
That's a really insightful question. And you're right, senescent cells aren't inherently bad. They actually play a beneficial role in certain situations, like wound healing and tissue repair.
Oh, interesting. So they're like the body's emergency responders, rushing to the scene of an injury to help with the cleanup and rebuilding process.
That's a great way to think about it. But just like with any emergency response, there comes a point when that initial surge of activity needs to taper off to allow for proper healing and restoration. And that's where senescent cells can become problematic if they linger for too long and start causing more harm than good.
So it's all about finding the right balance, right?
Yeah.
Eliminating the harmful senescent cells without disrupting the ones that are still doing their job.
Precisely. And that's one of the biggest challenges for researchers in this field. They're working to develop senolytic drugs that are highly selective. So they only target the harmful senescent cells while sparing the ones that are still playing a positive role.
It's like developing a surgical strike team that can take out the enemy combatants without harming the innocent civilians. I'm really eager to see where this research leads. It feels like we're on the verge of a major breakthrough in our understanding of aging and disease.
I agree. The potential of senolytics is truly transformative. It's not just about living longer, it's about enhancing what we call health span, the number of years that we can live free from age-related diseases and disabilities.
Yeah, and who wouldn't want that? To live a longer, healthier life, full of vitality and purpose. That's a vision of the future that's both inspiring and, it feels tantalizingly within reach.
It really is. It speaks to the power of scientific inquiry and our constant pursuit of knowledge to understand the secrets of human health and longevity. And the applications, they go far beyond just individuals. The potential impact on society as a whole is immense.
Okay, now we're talking big picture stuff. What kind of ripple effects could this breakthrough have on the world?
Well, imagine a society where people can remain healthy and productive well into their 70s, 80s, even 90s. The potential for innovation, creativity, and collaboration between generations would be incredible. Think about our healthcare systems, economies, social structures, everything would be revolutionized.
It's like tapping into this vast reservoir of human potential that we've been overlooking for far too long.
Exactly. If we can significantly delay or even prevent age-related diseases, the possibilities are truly endless. It's a reminder that we're living in an era of unprecedented scientific discovery, and the future of human health is full of potential.
Well, if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, I definitely encourage you to stay informed about the latest developments in senolytic research. It's a rapidly evolving field that could fundamentally change how we approach aging and disease.
And remember, as exciting as these advancements are, it's important to approach them with a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking. Don't fall for quick fixes or miracle cures. Rely on credible sources of information and consult with healthcare professionals before making any decisions about your own health.
Absolutely. Here's a final thought-provoking question for you all to ponder. If scientists could reliably identify and target senescent cells, what other aspects of human health could we revolutionize? Could we enhance tissue regeneration, accelerate healing, even reverse the effects of certain genetic conditions?
Now, those are some questions to keep you thinking.
Until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those minds hungry for knowledge. So we're talking about potentially revolutionizing how we treat diseases by targeting these zombie cells. But how do scientists even know where to find them? It's not like they glow in the dark, right?
Not quite, but it is a challenge, and there's a lot of research going on right now into how to effectively measure and track these senescent cells.
Yeah, it seems like that would be a crucial first step before you can even think about targeting them.
Absolutely. One approach that scientists are using is to look for what we call biomarkers. So these are specific molecules that senescent cells release, kind of like a distress signal.
So it's like they're leaving behind clues that researchers can follow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By detecting these biomarkers in blood samples or other bodily fluids, scientists can get a sense of the overall burden of senescent cells in the body.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about if they need more specific information about where these cells are congregating?
Well, for that, they can actually take biopsies of particular tissues and analyze them directly for the presence of senescent cells. It's a more invasive method, but it can offer a much clearer picture of how these cells are distributed throughout the body.
So it's not just about knowing how many zombie cells are lurking, but also where they're setting up camp. This brings us back to the importance of personalized medicine, doesn't it?
It really does. Knowing the location and concentration of senescent cells in an individual can help doctors tailor those senolytic therapies for maximum effectiveness. Imagine being able to deliver these drugs precisely where they're needed most, minimizing potential side effects and maximizing the benefit.
It's like a guided missile taking out those zombie cells with pinpoint accuracy.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about the flip side of this. You mentioned earlier that senescent cells aren't always bad. Are there any risks associated with eliminating them altogether?
That's a great question, and it highlights an important nuance in this research. Senescent cells aren't inherently bad actors. They actually play a vital role in certain bodily processes, like wound healing, for example.
So they have a good side too. That's interesting.
Yeah, think of them like first responders. Rushing to the scene of an injury, they help clean up the damage and initiate the repair process.
Okay, so they're like the cleanup crew after a demolition, essential for rebuilding, but you don't want them hanging around indefinitely.
That's a great analogy. The problem arises when these senescent cells overstay their welcome. Instead of contributing to healing, they can start to promote inflammation and damage the surrounding tissues. It's like the construction crew sticking around after the building is finished and starting to tear it down again.
So the key is to find that sweet spot where we can eliminate the harmful senescent cells without disrupting their beneficial functions.
Precisely. And that's a major focus of ongoing research. Scientists are working tirelessly to develop senolytic drugs that are highly selective, so they target only the harmful senescent cells, while leaving the beneficial ones to do their jobs.
It's like developing a sophisticated security system that can distinguish between friend and foe and neutralize only the real threats. It seems like the future of this research really hinges on achieving that level of precision.
You're absolutely right. And that brings us to another exciting aspect of this field, the sheer breadth of its potential applications. We've talked about bone health and age-related diseases, but it goes far beyond that.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about these other applications. What else could senolytics potentially treat?
Well, for starters, there's promising research into their use for idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. It's a serious lung condition with limited treatment options.
Yeah, that's a condition that I know has devastating consequences for people. If senolytics could offer some relief, that would be a huge breakthrough.
It would indeed. And that's just one example. Researchers are also exploring their potential for treating dementia, diabetes, heart disease, even certain types of cancer. The possibilities seem almost limitless, which is what makes this field so incredibly exciting.
It's like we're on the cusp of unlocking a whole new toolbox for addressing some of the most challenging health issues facing humanity. But with any new technology, there are always considerations that go beyond the purely scientific party.
You're exactly right. As we delve deeper into this research, it's crucial to consider the societal implications as well. What does it mean for our healthcare systems? How do we ensure equitable access to these treatments? These are complex questions that we need to be thinking about as this field continues to advance.
It sounds like we're entering uncharted territory. And as fascinating as the science is, we can't lose sight of those bigger questions about access, equity, and the potential impact on society as a whole. This is a conversation that needs to continue.
Absolutely. But for now, let's dive back into the science itself and explore some of those specific diseases that senolytics might be able to treat. Let's start with idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, or IPF as it's often called.
Okay, that sounds like a good place to start. I'm ready to delve deeper. So let's talk about this lung condition, IPF. What makes it such a good candidate for senolytic treatment?
Well, IPF is a particularly devastating disease because it causes this progressive scarring of the lungs, which makes it harder and harder for people to breathe. And unfortunately, there aren't a lot of good treatment options available right now.
That's really heartbreaking. So where does senolytics fit into all of this?
Well, research has shown that senescent cells actually play a key role in the development of that lung scarring that we talked about. They kind of build up, they accumulate in the lungs of IPF patients, and they release all of those harmful substances that we were discussing earlier, which fuels inflammation and fibrosis.
So it's like those zombie cells are basically wreaking havoc in the lungs, causing the very damage that leads to IPF.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. And that's why scientists are so excited about the potential of senolytics to treat IPF. By selectively eliminating those senescent cells, they could potentially slow down or even reverse the progression of the disease.
That would be an incredible breakthrough for people who are suffering from IPF. Are there any clinical trials underway right now to test this approach?
Yeah, actually there are. There are several clinical trials in various stages, exploring the use of senolytics for IPF. It's still early days, but the initial results are looking promising.
Well, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on those developments. It's amazing to think that we might be on the cusp of a whole new era of treatment for IPF, thanks to these zombie cell-killing drugs.
It really is. It's a testament to the power of scientific innovation and our growing understanding of how these aging processes actually contribute to disease. And it's not just IPF, Senolytics are being investigated for a whole range of other conditions, too, from dementia to diabetes to certain types of cancer.
Yeah, I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this whole topic. It's mind-boggling to think about the potential that senolytics have to transform human health.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? What's the next step for this research?
Well, I think the next big hurdle is to develop even more targeted and effective senolytic drugs. We need to find ways to refine their delivery and make sure that they're hitting the right cells without causing unwanted side effects.
Yeah, it sounds like a delicate balancing act, for sure. And as we talked about earlier, it's so important to consider the broader societal implications of all of this research.
Absolutely. As these treatments become more widely available, we need to think about things like access and affordability. We need to make sure that everyone who could benefit from senolytic therapies has the opportunity to do so.
It's a reminder that scientific progress doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's crucial to consider the ethical and societal dimensions, alongside the purely scientific ones. Well, if there's one thing that we hope you take away from this deep dive, it's that the future of aging and disease treatment is looking brighter than ever.
We really are living in a remarkable time for scientific discovery. And as we continue to unlock the secrets of senescent cells and how to target them, we're opening up a world of possibilities for extending lifespan and improving health span for generations to come.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll all be able to say goodbye to those pesky zombie cells for good.
That would be something to celebrate.
So until our next deep dives, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those minds hungry for knowledge.